Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner, Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, the Cubs, they're playing this middling brand of baseball right now. They do not look like the fun, exciting powerhouse offense team that we saw for much of the season, really. They it just seems I don't want to say that it looks like 2018 version. This hasn't extended long enough to look like even last year, the 2 months of just empty offense. But it's been a couple series now where the offense hasn't really looked like itself. That ending uh, to the Red series was nice. Uh, it was some good signs of some hard hit balls going into the seats. That's what you want to see. You want to see a little bit more of men on base with when those balls go in seats. But it's a nice start, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But I think what everyone has noticed, what everyone noticed in July, and what is kind of continued into August is Kyle Tucker is not playing like superstar Kyle Tucker. Uh, he talked about it. Councils talked about it. Even Jed Hoyer was asked about it. Uh, you're getting different answers, kind of on whether it's the finger. Kyle Tucker's answer was basically everyone's dealing with something, just got to go out there and play. Jed Hoyer said it's a fair question. I don't know. Essentially, is it bugging him? Is it healed, but he made some adjustments to play through it originally, and now that's kind of thrown off his mechanics? Who knows? And Craig Counsell doesn't believe that's an issue. Craig Counsell does not believe the finger is causing any issues here. So, you know, ultimately, the bottom line is he's playing. He's healthy enough to play. He's not looking like Kyle Tucker, and it's a little weird.
I love the array of answers on this one. And I don't know if anyone really knows. I mean, baseball is a weird sport. As Anthony Riz would say, it's baseball. That's baseball. And he got off to such a great start that as he cooled off, his numbers were still awesome, and now his numbers are solidly above average. Very good season, but just not delivering that same sort of impact. And I think since he got a lot of the credit for the team's great start, he has to shoulder some of the blame here for a club that has just been kind of like figuring out ways to get by and, not totally bottom out. They still have not gotten on that sustained hot streak really since early April. I think that's what even internally they had been waiting for, of like, okay, you deal with the Shota and Steele injuries, you kind of grind through the middle of the season, but the great teams find a way to like take off again, and they really just haven't. It's not like the trade deadline is going to give them that huge boost. Like, those guys could be helpful, but in terms of like oh wow, look who just walked in the room, that didn't really happen. And so it's been interesting to follow the waves of like, oh my God, they have to extend Kyle Tucker, just write the check. And to now it's like, well, where's this guy been? I mean, it's the lack of like impact has been noticeable. Now he still contributes in a lot of different ways. He's still a great player to build around. But the timing of this has not been good. And it's really going to be on him to see how he finishes here and really makes that kind of closing kick before he hits free agency, which now is just, it was already kind of obvious. I think now it's basically just, the facts on the ground. We kind of know what we're working with here.
Yeah, I think he made some good points, and this is Council's point, and I think this is what Council really believes is happening. Is he's just missing his pitch. You watch enough baseball, you see this. And the essential point is when against major league pitching, you're not going to get a ton of pitches to hit. You maybe get one and at bat if you're lucky. Right now, Kyle Tucker is fouling that ball off. And then what happens is it's extending the at bats, and either he's putting a ball in play that's not the best pitch of the at bat, but good enough to swing at, or he's taking a walk. He's done it. He's not chasing. He's not swinging at bad pitches. He's done a remarkable job of staying, productive, if not MVP level productive. He had a 380 on base percentage or something like that in July. Just, a bad month for him when his OPS was slightly above league average for the month. That's sending alarm bells across the Cubs nation when this guy isn't playing at this insane level. And it's fair. It is fair because there's no power there. I think he had one home run in July. Basically since July 1st, I think he has one home run.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I think the concern is. He also made a point, and I've noticed this because when he has hit the ball hard, even like for a hit, it's been right at someone. So it'll be like a hard line drive, one hop single right to the right fielder, 10 feet to the left or right, that goes to the wall, and that's a double. And now you're feeling a little bit better about the power production. It's still not enough. It's still not like if he were batting 300 with a bunch of singles and you're saying like, oh, he's just not finding the gap and the home run power will come. There's obviously something off. You hope it's just timing and like slight mechanic tweak rather than the finger is lingering and this is just something that he has to play through. I think the optimistic take would be the finger injury happened on June 1st. I believe it was June 1st exactly. And he had an absolutely monstrous June. Just an awesome month. It was his best month of the season, one of the best months of his career, and that's the optimistic take of don't worry about the finger because look what he did when initially with the finger. He could have banged it up again sometime in July. He could, or it could just be like what Jed said about like, did he develop a habit here and now he can't fully get rid of that habit? So we'll find out. I think he's a huge piece of this. I think there's obviously I'm not breaking any news there, but that combined with Michael Busch struggling since All-Star break, Seiya Suzuki basically having good game or two after the All-Star break and struggling. Great game on Wednesday, by the way. Great sign for him. Every at bat, every plate appearance was great. That's important. PCA going in a little bit of a funk over the weekend and into this past week. Who am I missing? Kyle Tucker, Michael Busch, PCA. Dansby Swanson's been up and down lately. Ian Happ's finally hitting the ball hard again. So there's just not enough. Those four guys of PCA, say Michael Busch and Kyle Tucker, that's your power. You need them to produce. And if all of them aren't producing at once, you get this Friday to Wednesday kind of malaise of offense that we saw. You just hope that's all it is, like a 2-series stretch of really bad offense. If that's the worst it gets, you'll take it. But there are other factors at hand. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's take a quick break and get back to more Cubs talk.
It's summertime, it's bathing suit time, and it's time to get a better bathing suit liner. It's 2025, Kratz. I would like to feel more comfortable, and I would like to thank Fair Harbor for doing that.
It's super easy. Get the Fair Harbor Breeze Knit liner in your shorts. You can go play football on the beach. You can play paddleball. And you don't got to worry about that crappy liner that other bathing suits have.
It is so comfortable. You got to check it out. I'm telling you, it's like butter, baby. You got to check out the Fair Harbor, not only bathing suits, but they carry a full line of casual clothing, shorts, shirts, hoodies. Go to the website, fairharborclothing.com/foul. and use code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. That's fair, HARBOR clothing.com/foul for 20% off your first purchase. And make sure that you use the FT promo code so that they know we sent you and you get the discount, FOUL.
Patrick, a lot of hand wringing over the lack of an impact starter not being brought in at the trade deadline, and it completely fair. It was my initial reaction as well, but after doing some digging, it seems like, and this was something we were hearing beforehand, to get one of those Joe Ryans or Mackenzie Gores, you were going to have to subtract from the major league roster, and the name that just kept coming up in trade discussions was Cade Horton. I don't think anybody that's watched this team regularly would think that would make sense to give up Cade Horton right now. And then the way he's performed lately, it just, like, you can't remove him from the team right now. You can't, not for a long period of time. Like, this guy is critical not just to the future, but he's critical to the present. He may be your number 3 starter in the playoffs. Put all the inning stuff and all that to the side. They're clearly managing him. They're being ultra careful. And I think that's thinking about his future beyond 2026, but or 20, what year is it? 2025. But also 2025. And they're not going to say we need him to impact the team later. They're not going to directly say that, we're saving him for October, but they're making sure that they have the best version of this guy throughout the season. That's how good he is. I've been, I'm a strikeouts guy. I want to see pitchers strike guys out. He hasn't fully done that yet, but I think he's getting better and better, and we're going to see more and more of that as he really learns how to pitch or attack hitters and understand the best way to use his stuff. But he's blown me away with how calm and consistent and kind of that bulldog nature that you kind of love to see from pitchers. He's got it.
No doubt. I mean, he was a total wild card coming into this season. For him to come up after Shota's injury and really stabilize things was super impressive. I mean, he had a real nice debut in New York, not the easiest place, and he's learned how to pitch at Wrigley Field, I think, kind of using the elements to his advantage and, throwing strikes, and really just bouncing back from one start to the next. I think back to his quotes after getting lit up in Houston and just being like, I got my butt kicked. It was not a whole lot of, I really felt good about my pitches and the execution. Like, it was bad luck. It was like, no, I got my butt kicked. And I think that has really endeared him to the coaching staff, Craig Counsell in particular. Craig, you can tell with his certain word choices he uses, and describing him as whatever, a clear-headed competitor, clear-eyed competitor, whatever the term is, but something he used with Justin Steele, who was kind of similar, of just getting into attack mode and trusting your stuff and not overthinking it. And yeah, I mean, also just to stay healthy this long. I mean, this is not someone who's logged a lot of innings. Going back to his time in college at Oklahoma, was not exactly a workhorse there. Came off a really disappointing season last year, and for him to put it together to this extent, and to have him be like a viable option for October, and maybe it is only, pitching 3+4 innings in game 3 of a playoff series. Like, that would still be amazing if he could reach that point, given all the questions he had coming into this year.
They use more info than just what we have available, Patrick, to make these decisions. But just one little thing. He averaged slightly above his four-seam fastball average velocity for the season, and he hit 98.5. I remember looking up and seeing that at the time and saying, wait, I had to go make sure that he hadn't hit that, like he wasn't like sitting there. And I just, I've not been paying attention. He hit it just once, but it's still impressive. The fastball is not getting the type of whiff that it was in the minors, but it's a incredibly effective pitch for him in the big leagues, and he's started to really lean on it since the Houston start and trust that pitch. He talked about that with us, I believe after I think it was after that. Not sure if it was after this most recent outing or recently. That's what he feels like has changed the most. He just trusts the four seamer. He's going to it a little bit more. He just looks like it. I think he also understands how to pitch, which is rare for these youngsters. He trusts so many of his pitches. He's not. We've heard about this slider for years, the sweeper for years. He doesn't just go to it all the time. He trusts his curveball. He's gone to his changeup more. I think this, again, he's not putting up the huge strikeout numbers, so I'm not sure if he's going to get much recognition just yet nationally. But I do feel like this is a guy that's like building up. And everyone's kind of said it. Jed said it. Craig Counsell said it. It feels like he gets better each time out, and like watching it, that's what it feels like. It feels like this is like a crescendo happening to like this big moment. And like what is that big moment? I don't know, but I do feel like he has even more to show us and has a chance to be this special type of pitcher. I don't think they ever considered moving him. I don't think there was even something that entered their head. But this is the stuff why. This is why you keep guys like this. This is why they made him the number 7 pick. This is why, it was outside the box thinking kind of at the time. It was an aggressive pick. He showed flashes. That's all it was. He didn't have extended periods of success, but they trusted enough to kind of believe that, hey, what we saw in the College World Series was just the beginning. And I think what we're seeing right now is kind of just the beginning of what could be, some fun. Health matters. You got to continue to work. You got to do all that stuff, but you got to be excited about what Cade Horton brings.
I mean, he's had 15 career major league outings, and maybe 2 or 3 of them would be considered like bad or an off night. I mean, he's repeatedly, consistently gone out there and given his team a chance to win, which is really kind of the bottom line with major league starting pitching. Even if you don't like feel great or don't have everything working, he just continues to battle. Like I said, 1 or 2 clunkers, a couple sort of toss-up games, but by and large has just repeatedly delivered, which for a guy who is about to turn 24, who has these huge developmental gaps in his amateur and professional career, is super impressive. And final thought, you nailed it. Like the health aspect of this, you have to capitalize when these young pitchers pop. The Cubs in 23, they rode Justin Steele, but couldn't finish it in September and earn that playoff spot. And I think with Horton here, it's fun to dream about what he could be for years to come. But sometimes with these young pitchers, you just have to capitalize when the moment arrives. And he has certainly taken advantage of this to the point where, if they had traded him off this major league roster, everyone would have been like, what are you doing here? Like, what's the point? Right? Like subtracting from major league roster, just not feasible.
Yeah, absolutely. 67 pitches yesterday. I think that it's not a lot. They're just going to be ultra careful with them. They're going to look for the right moments to pull them. It was the right moment because there was a guy coming up in Ellie De La Cruz in a 1-run game who has huge, massive splits versus compared righties versus lefties. He's a switch hitter, but he's just not as good from the right side. I think it goes from like 40% above league average as a lefty to like 25% below league average as a righty. It was the right time to pull him when you're searching for ways. He was remarkably efficient. He gave you 5 2/3 innings. I think that's what we're going to see. I don't know if they unleash him during the playoffs or if this is the plan the rest of the season. They're going to look for ways to get this guy rest. They have to, because he's going to be needed for bigger moments. It's big right now. Obviously, we'll talk about that let's take a quick break and just talk about how it feels like every game is so critical right now for this team.
Kratz, if I'm new to card collecting and I'm looking for the safest, most trusted way in the game to acquire cards or to buy a card, but not go through a ton of work where I'm going to the shows, I'm going online doing auctions, I want it all in one place, I'm going to
Arena Club. It's all in one place. You know you're getting a good price, whether you're buying it or you're selling cards. If you're new to it, you don't want all the other crappy cards. You can get the ones that you want. You can start your collection. And if you get them on Arena Club, your collection will look boss.
That's right. And may I mention, they also have Pokemon cards in those slab packs that we talk about every week. You can rip a pack for as low as $25 and hit on a card that's worth tens of thousands of dollars because every pack has grails that are at least 20x the price of the pack. So get involved at arenaclub.com/foul. Use the code FOUL to get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase.
All right, Patrick. If you're scoreboard watching as a Cubs fan, you are a frustrated person right now. I've watched some of these Brewers games, and like I said, if you're a Cubs fan and watching these games, you're going to be kicking things because sometimes they get these hits that score these runs. You thought if you watched Monday's game against the Reds, the Brewers win a game like that every other day, where the Cubs, the Reds got a bunch of like dinky hits to get a couple runs in. The Cubs don't score the tying run because Dansby Swanson doesn't touch first base on what looked like an infield single with 2 outs. Like just random stuff not going their way and going the other team's way. It's the opposite for the Brewers every other game. I'm not saying they're not playing good baseball, but they're also getting every bounce. And when that happens, you get a run like this, which has just been incredible. I believe this was before Wednesday's win. They had their best ever 60-game stretch in franchise history. Now it's the best ever 61-game stretch because they won again on Wednesday. Another 1-run win. They're just playing really good baseball, timely hitting, good pitching. Everything is working for them, and they've built somehow, remarkably, a 4-game lead. And the Cubs aren't bad. They'd be in first place in every other division. And this is what happens. And this is why you have that hand wringing, because I wonder if they weren't in a division with the Brewers, would there be as much angst among Cubs fans? Would they just be like, hey, they're not playing their best baseball right now and they're still in first place? Or they're still, it's just, you can't say that because the other team's just playing out of their minds.
It just seems like every time I look at the standings, just occasionally look at that kind of a snapshot of last 10. It just seems like Brewers, it's like 9-1, 10-0. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and if you were a Cubs fan, at Cubs convention, and if someone told you, the Cubs would have a better record than the Dodgers in the middle of August, like, would you have taken it? You probably, yeah. But at this point, I think we just have to start thinking about the Brewers as what the Tampa Bay Rays were kind of when they were at their peak of just so frustrating teams in the American League East. I mean, the Rays haven't totally fallen off the map, and they're obviously like the kind of the leader historically of just kind of working these small market miracles. But the Brewers are doing it at such a high level right now that, you can't be surprised anymore when they pick up some guy off the scrap heap or make some minor trade, and all of a sudden that guy is, beating the Cubs at the major league level. And I'm curious too, like, I know the Brewers schedule is, supposed to be tougher than the Cubs in the second half, but you look at some of these surprise sellers and it's like, they come off that trip to Wrigley Field and they have a homestand against the Giants and Diamondbacks, which, looked like it'd be hard not that long ago, but those are kind of diminished teams right now. And, the Cubs are, after August 21st, assuming no rainouts, they're not going to get another head-to-head chance against the Brewers. And so, can Brewers keep this up? Probably not, but I don't see them like collapsing. They're not just going to totally fade away. Like they may come down, come back to the pack a little bit, and the Cubs will obviously have to perform well in those head-to-head matchups, but the idea of them just tanking in September is just not realistic.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I remember seeing that whenever I saw that graphic that the Brewers had like one of the hardest schedules and the Cubs had one of the easiest. And then I looked at the schedule recently and I was like, it doesn't look as hard as what that graphic was insinuating or suggesting. It just, you're right. There's something that there, like some of these teams that have decent records right now, they're not as intimidating as they were. The Giants are one of them. I don't know what the Diamondbacks record is. I don't think it's awful. I don't think they're above 500 right now. But they're just not. These aren't intimidating teams any longer. And the Cubs, uh, they have a tough yeah, it's probably a tough road trip. Going to St. Louis, doesn't matter how St. Louis is, it's always tough. And then Toronto's the only team other than the Brewers that has a better record than the Cubs is Toronto, and they have to go play there. Look, the Cubs have to beat good teams. The Cubs have to, that's part of it. They need, and they can beat anyone. I think it's what we talked about before. The offense needs to get going and really needs to show that power. The best players need to play like they're the best players. I don't, I do think this is when it comes to bad stretches of play, you'll take this for the Cubs. They're playing around 500. Nobody plays 700 ball all season long. Nobody averages 6.5 runs a game. There was bound to be a moment. What they need to do is make it short. It can't be the 2-month stretch that it was last year. It can't be that the past previous 2 seasons, they were doing this too often where we'd see these extended stretches of poor play. They need the Brewers are on an insane heater. This level of play can't last. I agree with you. I don't think a collapse is coming. I just don't they're a really good team. And you can go look at that lineup and say they don't have any stars on this lineup. You can go look at everything about that team and say, where are these superstar impact talents? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's working and it continues to work year after year after year. They find the right players that work in their system and then they go to another place and they're just not nearly as impactful. So that's just, they're just a really well-run organization. And I'm going to stop shortchanging them. I don't, there's no point in it because they're just impressive. And it's not flashy and it's not and there's nothing you can point to and just say like, well, that's what it is. It's just, well, they're good defense, they're speedy, they don't hit for a lot of power, and that's the one thing that I think may ultimately cost them in the postseason, but they're going to get there and they're going to be a thorn in everyone's side. And I'm not giving them this division. It's 4 games right now. You'd like to see the Cubs be much closer by the time the Brewers come to town, but it's going to be a fun race. I think this is just a down moment for the Cubs. I think they'll get back and make it closer. I have no clue if they can win this division because the Brewers just, my Lord, the way they play, it's every game they're in it, and they come up with Andrew Vaughn. I think is probably the poster boy of this all. It's like, what the hell is going on? Quinn Priester and Andrew Vaughn, like these 2 guys, it's like they just weren't nearly as good anywhere else, and then they come here. Andrew Vaughn in particular was just seemed like a wasted draft pick for the White Sox, and immediately becomes this impact player. So
I mean, if
we'll
Kyle
see.
Tucker can go through a slump, Andrew Vaughn can go through a slump too. I guess that would be the thought process there. And also, they did not exactly blow everyone away at the trade deadline either. Maybe that is a missed opportunity for them. Not that I'm in a position to second guess the Brewers front office, but you look at some of the things, it's like, okay, some of these guys will probably recede a little bit. They did not make that. They did not go and acquire, a CC Sabathia type deadline reinforcement. Players get injured. Stuff happens. Stuff always happens. The Cubs have a chance here. They have their path towards October, but at a certain point, they're just going to have to beat the Brewers, beat good teams, and really what we've talked about before, just finding that next gear. Like, they have not imploded. They've been good at salvaging series and avoiding sweeps, but at a certain point, you just need a little more. You need more sustained performance at a higher level.
Yeah, I'm getting ready. I'm pumped up for that series, that 5-game set. Like, the last time, I think the Cubs had a 5-game set in 2003 against the Cardinals. Am I remembering this right? I just remember this huge 5-game set at Wrigley Field where the Cubs won 4 of 5 against the team that they played. It could have been 2003. I could be misremembering the years. It was against the Cardinals. I remember a lot of that series. It was a fun series. Hopefully it's close to as entertaining a week from now, but they got 6 to go, 3 or 9 to go, 3 against St. Louis, 3 against in Toronto, and then Pittsburgh before that 5-game set with the Brewers. I will have one more episode this week. Patrick is on vacation. We'll let him enjoy his time out in the Jersey Shore. You guys can send me some questions and I'll answer them after the first game of the Cardinal series. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks for listening. Take care.